so many things happen in the last decade. Actually, even in the last 5 years, there's some changes, right? So,
Bila Desiree mula mempelajari tentang autism, about 9 years ago, saya telah question lah banyak benda.
It's so frustrating, you know. At that time, I felt frustrated, but I'm sure now that's the thing. We think like the same as language lah. We think that the 10 tahun ni dah berubah from A to B, but it's still a mixed message, you know.
Assalamualaikum. Hi everybody, welcome back to Kita Family. Oh, we just, the last episode was really good kan, because we had Professor Nicole. So we have the hard job now of trying to make sure that this episode is also interesting and bermanfaat untuk semua orang. So Kita Family biasanya ialah kita di sini membincangkan perihal berkaitan dengan makna serta kehidupan yang menghargai keunikan dan kepelbagaian sesama kita. Kita meraihkan masyarakat yang berbilang agama, kaum, kepercayaan, rupa dan juga keupayaan. Kita menghargai hidup secara inklusif yang mengambil kira keperluan segenap lapisan masyarakat, terutamanya mereka yang kurang atau berkelainan keupayaan. So, seterusnya. Okay.
Episod keberapa?
Episod keberapa? Mak tak ingat.
99.
Hah? Dah 99 ke?
Ya.
Oh my.
Yeah.
Masya Allah. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Episod yang ke-99. Tak sangka. Okay. Episod yang ke-99. Okay, apakah yang akan kita ceritakan untuk episod 99? Maybe before that, can I just sentuh our episode yang ke-100 ni, yang 100 that's coming out?
Yes, very
It's
exciting.
so exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, Alhamdulillah. Cannot imagine kita sampai ke tahap ni ya. Dah 100 episode. InsyaAllah 100 episode by the time that we do it. And yelah, nantikan episod yang ke-100. Dan sepatutnya saya tak sebut nantikan sahajalah kerana sebenarnya untuk pendengar, penonton Kita Family di sekitar Lembah Kelang, so that means you are close enough to KL, we actually want to invite you for a live recording of our podcast. So I think kita ada maklumat tentang episod ke-100 ini di dalam social media channel kita.
Betul.
So sila rujuk kepada Facebook dan Instagram dan TikTok. Siapa-siapa nak datang dan bersama-sama dengan kami, kita sangat mengalu-alukan. Spaces are a little bit limited kerana tempat lokasi recording kita pun agak unik.
Yes.
We will be at the Kids Gym. We rock the Spectrum Kids Gym. My home. In Taman Desa, insyaAllah. So yes, we want to record live and we would like to be with some of you. Dan kita juga akan pada episod yang ke-100 ini insyaAllah mengumumkan sesuatu yang memang dekat di hati kita lah, iaitu inisiatif baru Kita Family, which is the Kita Family Support Group. We're going to kick that off as well. That's why we want to see some of you in person. And insyaAllah after that we will see you in person monthly, right? That's the plan. So yes, very very excited about episode 100. In the meantime, buat masa ini kita kena fokus datang balik kepada episod kita pada hari ini yang ke-99. Dan I think what we decided to do was, memandangkan kita dah sampai kepada satu titik sejarah yang agak menarik ni. I think all of us have been doing a little bit of reflection. So tajuk kita pada episod kali ini adalah untuk membincangkan apakah perubahan yang telah berlaku sekitar, let's say about 10 years lah. In the last 10 years yang berkaitan dengan autism. Because this is just to prove kalau kita mengimbau balik and then kita fikirkan balik, kita rujuk dan we did a bit of research again to confirm this. So many things happen in the last decade. Actually, even in the last 5 years, there's some changes, right? So we're going to talk about a few of them. I hope we cover all the big ones. And then we hope that kalaulah ada apa-apa yang penting, mungkin kita terlepas pandang, tidak menyebut, please put it in the comments. It will be really great. So at least this episode can capture everything. But yeah, we're going to kick it off and talk about the big changes that have happened. That's why I think, especially for us older parents or kira parents yang, have been on this journey for quite some time, kita dah melihat lah a lot of different changes. And honestly, some of these changes, antara perkara-perkara inilah yang mendorong kami untuk membuat kita family podcast actually. Sebab ada benda yang kita belajar waktu anak kita baru menerima diagnosis, tapi sekarang ialah sesuatu yang kita tidak boleh guna pakai sebagai contoh, or like certain kind of pandangan, termasuk amalan yang telah kita ketepikan lah sekarang, right? We don't do those things anymore. There have been a lot of changes. So I think it will still be, we hope, a good episode and something that can benefit all our listeners today. So who wants to kick us off? Today, it's actually just the three of us. Sorry, I was so excited about everything, termasuk episode 100. I forgot to say, bersama-sama dengan Nuri hari ini, di studio kami berdua je actually, tapi sebelah kanan saya Desiree.
Hai, selamat sejahtera.
And jauh di sana, tapi kita dapat nampak lah melalui our screen when we record, we still get to see our Didi. Hi Didi.
Hai, Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi. How is KK?
KK panas, hujan.
Ya, bunyi KL je.
Same country mah.
Ya, same country mah. Okay, betul. Okay, my 2Ds. Siapa nak start dulu? I'm sure ada some of these changes that we have been discussing are particularly important to you, right? Cepat.
Okay, I don't mind going first sebab sebenarnya Desiree belum sampai 10 tahun lagi on this journey. Hans tahun ni berumur 11 tahun. So I've been doing this, understanding more about autism for about 9 years.
Okay.
So dalam masa tersebut pun saya rasa banyak perubahan yang saya dapat lihat, and to be honest,
yeah, just even the last few years, of course. So it's okay, so valid.
Yeah, so it's interesting that we are choosing the 10-year mark sebab bila Desiree mula mempelajari tentang autism about 9 years ago, saya telah question lah banyak benda, because I believe it was on that cusp di mana ada approaches yang telah lama digunakan. Contohnya seperti ABA, encouraging more compliance, dan for me personally, and saya pernah sebut juga dalam episod-episod sebelum ni, that didn't sit very well with me. So I think I was one of those at that time yang start to question what else is there out there selain daripada encouraging compliance, not encouraging stimming, yang tak membahayakan, behavioral therapy. So for me, I would think one of the big things that I observe is the whole stimming.
Yes, of course.
Saya diberi tanggapan bahawa stimming ni adalah sesuatu yang anak-anak kita tidak sepatutnya buat. Tetapi berdasarkan observation, saya melihat Hans ketika dia stimming dia buat masa dia happy. Right? So in our case, and I think we talked about it 2 or 3 episodes ago.
Yeah, we did already. So why don't you kind of focus on the thing about how the shift has gone from compliance to connection?
Yes.
Right? Can I ask you to talk about that?
Compliance to connection. Okay. So and it's also got to do with that stimming bit kan. So walaupun
trying to get you away from the stimming.
Sorry, I
okay, finish the thing about the stimming.
I can't let it go.
Okay. Finish your thing about stimming. About stimming. Not everybody listens to every episode. It's very important. It's true. It's a big thing for you.
Yes.
Do that and then but talk a little bit more.
Okay.
Okay.
Boleh. So so in terms of stimming, bila saya mendapat tahu ada approach lain yang tidak memberhentikan stimming yang tidak membahayakan. Okay, so always safety first. Yeah, we emphasize safety first. Saya rasa sangat gembira lah. So that's where I found my tribe, and that is in that tribe was where I learned about compliance versus understanding from their perspective. So saya rasa sekarang ni ada lebih penekanan dari segi memahami daripada fixing. Right? Kita cuba memahami kenapa diorang buat macam ni. Berbanding dulu, dia buat macam ni. Okay, what can we do to stop? Or what can we do to divert it?
Okay.
So sekarang ni ada lebih banyak perbincangan that surrounds the finding out, the detective bit, not so much on compliance but understanding the meaning or why the behavior or the actions are happening.
Okay, but does it mean that compliance is not important at all?
I don't think so. But I think compliance, maybe don't use the word compliance lah. I mean, the compliance should come from them. Bukan kita yang impose it. Right? So I think for me, I feel I need to give my child a compelling reason to comply. If it doesn't make sense to him, put myself in his shoes. If it doesn't make sense to me to comply, I wouldn't. Therefore, saya kena cubalah bagi dia a compelling reason to comply with a certain thing.
Okay, untuk ikut apa yang kita cakap lah.
Yes.
Okay, untuk menurut peraturan tertentu, menurut
Yes.
permintaan tertentu sepanjang masa. So I think it's true.
Mm.
Sekarang ni kita tak letakkan itu sebagai the only priority lah, or the
Yes.
biggest priority of all, right?
Mm.
Yeah, that is definitely a big change.
Mm.
Okay.
Mary, what do you think about connection before correction? There's still correction in the line, These are the things that the professionals are using now. Connection before correction.
Okay.
I'm okay with the connection, but the correction part, what do you think about it?
Okay. I think that it's connection before correction rather than guna perkataan instead of correction. Kerana I think kita tak boleh nak terus melepaskan correction ni, because kita tahu bahawa ada antara perkara-perkara yang berkaitan dengan diagnosis yang dapat kita pulihkan in a way, even though it's not 100%, dapat kita perbaiki, dapat kita membantu anak kita. So even if macam Dajjal kata tadi lah, the word compliance pun tak berapa best, the word correction might not be the best one either, but I think because it also sounds catchy kan, connection before correction. Bunyi dia is like kind of cool and it rhymes and things like that. But if you look at correction from the context of, let's say, we can say it is making it better, right? Or having something be what we want to see. We want to see a good outcome, right? Like for example, we do not want our child to experience any kind of pain lah, katakan. Because ada yang mungkin sebagai contoh, anak-anak atau individu autistik yang mempunyai sensory processing disorder yang berkaitan dengan yelah permasalahan dari segi deria dia, ada yang sampai pada satu tahap di mana dia pernah ada mereka yang autistik pernah menceritakan pada kita yang the problem that they have sampai pada tahap sakit. It's painful. For example, it's painful to be exposed to a certain kind of stimulus yang is very difficult for them. Like the ones, let's say some people who have tactile issues, right? Berkenaan dengan deria sentuh, and it's like there's certain things, baju or tags or this or something. It's not just tak berapa best atau uncomfortable. It's not uncomfortable. It's painful. It's painful for them. It's as if like ada jarum-jarum or things like that are pricking you, So that is, if we can help to resolve that situation, I would like to see something like that, for example, corrected. But I think what we want to say is that correction is like the compliance bit, not the be all and end all now. And it's good that we're saying connection before, which means the need to understand you, right? To be able to reach you, communicate with you. There's a back and forth. I get you. Hopefully you also are understanding. So it's like, multiple different ways that we can look at connection, right? That is much more important, or rather, that is the thing that's going to set the tone to help us do the things yang lebih berkaitan dengan benda-benda correction or fixing, this kind of thing lah. As opposed to straight away, okay, all these things are a problem.
Yeah.
Everything needs to be fixed. Sebagai contoh, like stimming atau other types of behaviors that were considered not typical or very unusual or strange or whatever. It was like, kita kena, ni semua kena diperbetulkan. Kita mesti ada eye contact. It's changed now, right? So I think the word correction remains for a reason, just like how we don't throw away the medical model, even though we want to embrace a social model and a strength-based approach. we don't get rid of it, but what we're trying to say is connect first, connect to the person, to the human, to the, to building a relationship, making that person, feel that they have, that they can sort of, communicate with you. You have a relationship. And then I think whatever other goals we have can definitely happen better, inshallah, when we have it to begin with.
Yes.
Right? Like you
So,
don't have a relationship. Sometimes it's like kalau kita tengok tak ada kena-mena dengan autism ke diagnosis ke neurodiversity pun. But if you're talking about another human being, there are things that, let's say, you talk about just, relationships that you might have with people. If you don't have one, right? You don't make the effort to do that, get to know, building this kind of rapport. You cannot really expect them to do something you want or get that buy-in, right?
So something just jumped out to me when, talking about connection kan. Saya rasa bila ada connection ni, ia mempercepatkan proses towards acceptance. Kan, so I have a rationale to this.
Okay.
Usually we hear from a lot of parents, bila dapat diagnosis anak, a lot of us go through the stage of denial. So cuba bayangkan bila dah in the stage of denial, if the approaches are about fixing.
Okay.
For example, dia mesti buat ni, mesti buat tu. Have to stop this, have to stop that. It adds the pressure, it adds to the load of receiving the diagnosis. You're adding to your allostatic load lah.
Okay. And pressure to yourself.
And pressure to yourself.
Okay.
Tapi cuba bayangkan sekarang ni we are saying connect first. Connect with your child. Your child is autistic, but your child is still your child.
Yeah.
Kan? And I think it helps parents, I don't know, I would think it would help perhaps a new parent get to that acceptance part a bit sooner.
No, for sure.
Than
right?
some of us who had been
kenal
exposed.
Dulu lah,
yes.
That whole tak kenal maka tak cinta kind of thing.
Yeah. So I think that's one big thing I would say I observe now. The connection bit helps us get to acceptance a lot faster, I think.
I agree.
Yeah.
Didi, you had that question for me. You definitely had some comments, right?
Sorry, Desiree excited tadi.
I just want to add, I have to add this. And with the acceptance and the connection, barulah boleh co-regulate.
Yes.
Co-regulation penting. Okay.
Kalau tak
But
connect
what is your
macam
take on it? How do you feel about that correction before connection thing? Yeah, so makes sense to you? Does it make sense? Don't want him to?
Well, kalau the extreme of like kita rasa macam kita perlu terima kan, macam terima everything pun tak boleh juga. Of course, we have to teach. So mungkin bunyi correction tu macam kita nak betulkan, but it's actually even typical kids pun kita akan correct, kita akan ajar, kita akan didik. So it's not a negative thing lah.
Ya, betul. Ya, betul. Takkanlah kita nak terima every single thing just because it comes with the diagnosis. So sometimes there is this whole thing about, bila orang sebut kadang-kadang, especially kalau kita tengok masyarakat Melayu lah, ada yang sampai like dia akan sebut tentang reda. Tapi I tak setuju sangat lah dengan reda yang kata, okay lah terima begitu seadanya, tak payah buat apa-apa. It's like the type of reda where I don't have to do anything.
Just accept.
This is just anak and then just accept. Tak payahlah, tak payah buat apa-apa. That means kita tak akan berusaha untuk cari bagaimana nak mengajar dia ke, nak bagi dia peluang untuk membuat apa-apalah seperti kanak-kanak lain. Kita just macam okay lah, this is our special anak, okay you or things like that. And then selagi kita make sure makan, minum, safety, all that is sorted, tak payah buat apa-apa lagi. That part I don't agree lah. So that's where I think we have to still look at some of those words. If we don't like those words, but we understand the reason for them, maybe we can change the words a little bit. But we do want to improve situations. We do want, there's a reason why we talk about therapy, right? Therapy will help. Anything that can improve your quality of life is something we should try to do. Kan? Kalau berkaitan dengan quality hidup, something that can just make anybody lah, sesiapa pun, hidup, lebih elok. Then kita patut berusaha ke arah tu lah. Kita tak biarkan je kan. Yeah. Okay. Next one. Does anybody want to talk about a new one? I think language has changed. Usually I talk about
Yep.
language. Somebody else want to say something first? But yeah, words have changed.
Okay.
Things have changed, right?
Yep.
Didi?
Kita pernah discuss dalam episod Greta Thunberg about Asperger, di mana sekarang Asperger bukan lagi diagnosis yang rasmi, dan juga technically lah, but there's this one thing, high functioning, low functioning masih banyak digunakan, tapi sebenarnya telah berubah lah. Kalau ikutkan sepatutnya kita lebih ikutkan official diagnosis di mana kita berdasarkan level support, tahap sokongan. Level 1, tahap sokongan minimal, tahap 2 yang sederhana, dan tahap 3 yang inilah yang lebih signifikan support yang diperlukan. So level dia berubah, dia bukan low functioning, high functioning. Dan satu lagi adalah bagaimana autistic person, mereka yang autistik mahu melabelkan diri mereka, mahu mereka digelar sama ada sebagai person with autism or autistic person. It seems that ramai yang nak setuju untuk dipanggil autistic person. Dia lebih macam, even my kids pun mereka lebih selesa, oh I'm autistic rather than I'm with autism. Sebab bagi mereka autism itu adalah sesuatu yang memang part of diri mereka lah. Dia bukan
tak dapat dipisahkan kan?
Dia bukan macam ada masa saya autistik hari ni saya tak autistik, saya okey je. Tak ada. Dia macam tu. So dia bahasa ni memang nak ikutkan masih lagi, kalau ikutkan di negara kita ni belum 100%, kerana dari segi secara rasmi official di peringkat contohnya di peringkat sekolah, kementerian pun masih lagi menggunakan kefungsian, level kefungsian ni lah. Kefungsian ni functioning lah, high functioning, low functioning. So masih perubahan tu tidak menyeluruh lagi. Tetapi bagi mereka yang telah lama dalam komuniti, especially autistic community themselves, ada yang rasa macam tak best lah, tak seronok, macam nak labelkan, oh ni low functioning, ni high functioning. Tak. Mereka mahu melihat perubahan lah.
Can you take us through, explain a bit further, mengapa kita tak berapa suka dengan istilah high functioning, low functioning ni?
Dia macam ni lah. For me macam kita kan, kita orang tanya, you dulu SPM dapat berapa? You IQ you berapa? It doesn't make sense, to label orang dengan tahap you punya pemikiran ke apa ke, you punya kelayakan kan. Tapi bila dari segi support, it's about apa yang perlu diberikan kepada mereka. Kalau mereka tahap 1, okey, ada support, sokongan yang kita perlu berikan. Kerana sekarang ni yang kita boleh lihat, apabila mereka dilabel sebagai high functioning, these people are expected to function as typical person. They are denied support altogether.
Which is not fair jugalah.
Not fair jugalah. So bila kita kata level 1 support, ada support. Ini macam high functioning. Sometimes ada yang even expect if you are high functioning, you savant, you lebih baik, lebih
genius
bagus
lah, you pandai lah.
Exactly. So you see the meaning tu macam tak sama kan. Those are perubahan lah in this last yang belum lagi, masih lagi dalam proses. That's what we see lah.
I
Tapi
think
kita
language
galakkan
ni
lah
ada,
mereka di luar sana tu kan.
language ni ada juga hubung kaitnya dengan simbol. Kan? Kalau kita tengok sebagai contoh, dulu rata-rata menggunakan puzzle, right? Because
Puzzle, yes.
tapi sekarang orang dah memang kurang minat dengan puzzle ni, because I think autistic people have said, I don't want to be considered as something that is like a mystery or like you have to solve me, things like that, right? So dia tak nak kira, benda-benda yang ada konotasi seperti itulah, right? That it is because it sound, if it's something that has to be solved like a puzzle, bunyi macam there's something wrong lah. Dan kita nak mengingatkan pada semua bahawa if you have a diagnosis, it doesn't mean that there's like, it doesn't mean that you are wrong. There
Yeah.
might be some things that need to be addressed, but it doesn't make you as a person wrong or less than other people, right? This is
Betul.
something like I think Nazri likes to talk about all the time. So sekarang ni kalau diperlukan simbol lah, it is the infinity, right? It's like the infinity loop because it's like, well, endless possibilities in a way, or like open to thinking about things in the spectrum in a different way, as opposed to like, we call it a spectrum, but it gets reduced to a puzzle piece. Actually, if we think about it now, it's kind of strange, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the other thing that just came to my mind as we were talking about puzzle piece and now infinity symbol, we know this because we have more autistic adults now speaking up and telling us these things that compared to 10 years ago, maybe taklah seramai sangat that were out there.
Yes.
Not as many would have probably been considered even to speak at an autism awareness event, for example.
Yeah.
And now we even have, advocates like ourselves. Bila dijemput ke mana-mana majlis, I know I do this actively untuk memberi talk or to share. My first question is, do you have an autistic person on the panel? Kan? And I think a lot more of us are doing that because we also feel that who best to speak about the community than they themselves.
Yeah. That whole
Self-advocacy.
yes, and nothing about us without us, right? I think
Betul.
that is true for any group. Like if you look out like through history, right? When people have to advocate for themselves, whether we're talking about wanita ke yang dulu menuntut hak masing-masing ataupun orang berketurunan, tertentu and things like that. History has shown us that's what it is, and we do want to listen. Yelah, suara yang paling penting sebenarnya adalah orang yang berkaitan lah. Yeah, so macam kalau kita dekat kita family pun, we are like a kind of like a step away, right? Because we are the parents, the family of the caregivers and things like that. So we have a perspective, but finally the perspective also must come daripada individu autistic sendiri lah, kan?
Betul.
Okay. Let's do one more. We've got like a list to cover. Does somebody want to share what they maybe it's a change that they really like that they want to talk about?
The one
yeah, I would,
sorry, Didi go first. Didi go first. Sorry.
Okay, this happened definitely 10 years ago. Betul-betul 10 tahun yang lepas tau. Where masa tu kan tak ramai lagi orang bercakap tentang sensory. So bila anak autistic ni ada meltdown ke apa kan, oh ni nak manipulate parents je ni. That's what the tanggapan orang tahu. And then bila parents tak boleh nak manage anak kan, ni parents lah ni, like manjakan sangat, tak ikut all this yang diajar oleh terapis kan, macam you tak ignore masa dia tantrum, you give in kan, until kita sekarang I mean starting about 10 years ago belajar tentang sensory profiles. Sensory profiles ni dia boleh jadi sensory overload, dia boleh jadi sama ada macam allostatic load dalam badan dia sendiri, all this sensory dah makin ni kan, daripada pagi sampai petang, ataupun pada ketika tu sendiri dari segi environment, ada bunyi yang kuat ke, dia pakai baju yang tak selesa ke. So behavior tu bukan hanya untuk orang, macam you budak-budak tu bila dia roll on the floor, oh sebab nak tunjuk perangai. Kalau dulu ni parents, kegagalan parents, like it was very painful at that time lah. Tapi the shift tu memang I really felt that I was clearly there lah. Daripada mula dah faham dah sensory, but people keep saying that macam, how could you let autistic kids ni manipulate you? Nanti dia akan control you, nanti dia dah besar, nanti you lagi tak boleh nak kawal, lagi tak ni. So it's all about back to compliance, like compliance, you gagal didik dia, there's nothing about connection at that time. It's all about compliance, it's all about behavior tu adalah apa yang dikatakan, excuse me, my daughter is here, Amy. Okay, so that's the thing, like it's so frustrating, at that time I felt frustrated, but I'm sure now that's the thing, we think like the same as language lah. We think that 10 tahun ni dah berubah from A to B, but it's still a mixed message, because of all the methods ni kan still ada lagi. It's not like macam we totally like semua dah, all the therapists using the same thing, all the teachers saying all these new things yang dah evolve kan. So bila orang ada perception and making you believe that whenever your children throw a tantrum, had a meltdown in public, is the failure of you tak you tak ajar dia, you selama ni you tak, how to say, kan dia ada macam kita ada belajar not the ABC kan, antecedent, the behavior, the consequence. So we have not like applied that properly. That's why anak you still macam tu. Sedangkan macam now that anak kita dah walaupun dah berbelas tahun, dah nak umur 20 tahun pun, we know that even the sensory yang kita belajar ni pun, sensory tu pun berubah. And then there's also other factors like hormones, the demand of hari-hari dia kat sekolah, everything. So understanding sensory profiles lah. Dulu 10 tahun dulu tu sangat kurang kefahaman dia dan semuanya diletakkan di atas bahu ibu bapa. Kalau apa-apa jadi, mak dia lah ni manjakan sangat. But now, that's why macam kita also boleh nampak di persekitaran more accommodation given dari segi ada calming room, and then bila ada anak-anak kalau ada yang meltdown pun, masyarakat pun tidaklah every time akan mengecam. Masih ada lagi but then kurang lah. So those are a big thing kan, a big shift lah.
I think it's a big shift. Yeah. Sorry, Desiree, silakan.
I was just going to say it's progress. And interestingly, I find the word manipulative is being used less now to describe our children. Because if I remember correctly, when Hans masa tu baru masuk EIP, masih ramai cikgu and therapists, and these are people who mean well, niat mereka memang baik, because this is all they learn, this is all they know at that time. Memang selalu gunakan perkataan manipulative. Oh, hari ni Hans manipulative sini sebab dia tak nak buat benda ni. But now the language I feel has changed a little bit, like, oh, hari ni Hans mood dia kurang baik lah, dia tak nak buat benda ni, dia nak buat something else. So I've noticed now that Didi brought up that word, that is a very big shift for me in my mind, the use of the word manipulative to get out of something, and the fact that the consideration now comes with the sensory profile. Oh, mungkin hari ni Hans overload sikit on this part of his sensory, so sebab tu dia tak nak buat benda ni. Yeah,
I think it's very, very significant because it's like, it's huge tau. It dari segi kita nak cuba memahami seseorang atau situasi, right? So let's take to make it simple. I know it's not 100% exactly like this, but to sort of make it simple, maybe we just take a look at two words. We take a look at tantrum and we look at it dari segi definisi bahawa tantrum ni akan berlaku kerana kemahuan anak atau kemahuan seseorang. Dia ada target, dia ada goal, dia ada sebab dia tantrum. So tantrum dari segi buat perangai lah. Okay, so let's look at tantrum as that sort of definition. And dulu-dulu memang itu sajalah. Kita memang kalau tengok perangai tak elok, that is just the word. That is the only understanding we had, right? We didn't have this understanding of like a meltdown, or I've heard other interesting words like neuro crash, like sensory overload. Kita tak guna dulu perkataan seperti itu. Walhal sekarang kita dah tahu melalui kajian dan melalui pengalaman yang diceritakan oleh individu autistik sendiri, right? That I'm not doing this on purpose. It's not a choice. It's not a choice, and I don't have a goal. I'm not looking for you to give me katalah toy. I'm throwing a tantrum in a mall or whatever, like, I'm shaking or I'm rolling on the floor, I'm closing my ears or I'm screaming or something like that. It's not because I want you to give me something tau. I cannot cope at that point in time. You nak bagi I apa pun benda yang paling best dalam dunia, because they are already, really, they cannot take it. They can't take it. The body has the body has shut down. Like the brain has shut down, the brain is on or rather it's shifted to survival mode. So dia tak boleh rational thinking apa tu semua. So bila benda tu terjadi, and I think that is so it was really one of the biggest things, right, to have happened in the last 10 years or so. By the way, I'm being quite general about this lah. Bila kita sebut ada, apakah perbezaan kalau kita tengok balik 10 tahun. I mean, I know some things, there were some shifts that happened. Also like some shifts in policy, sort of like in other countries. You can go back to maybe like 2014, whatever. So you all jangan kecam I, okay? Kalau katalah ada certain perubahan yang not exactly like 10 years or within this time. It's roughly that lah. Kind of trying to look, sort of like a look back over the decade or so, right? Plus minus about the changes that have happened, and also certain things we know is more recent, right? More recent, like the use of the word neurodivergent, the understanding of the concept of neurodiversity. Sebab kita ada juga, and this is not just for autistic people, but we have people whose brains work differently. Dia ada certain kind of diagnosis, tapi dia tidak anggap diri dia disable. Dia tidak anggap diri dia sebagai OKU, right? Dan kalau kita secara objektif pun, kalau kita pun nak menilai, mungkin kita pun tak anggap dia sebagai orang OKU sebenarnya. So there's a difference, right? Disability means you really do need support to have access to the things that you need. You know, some way to live your life better. You need it. But if you are able to, I think, live your life well and easily, then you're not really disabled, right? And that's why sometimes we also talk about the fact that it's not necessarily to do with the diagnosis atau datang daripada orang tu sendiri, tetapi kita tengok pada persekitaran. Kadang-kadang persekitaran yang menyebabkan seseorang menjadi OKU atau tidak dapat berfungsi lah, if we want to go back to that word, atau tidak dapat menjalani hidup dia dengan baik, bukan kerana apa-apa permasalahan dari segi, you know, what's going on with them, tetapi dia tak dapat akses because persekitaran tidak membantu, tidak menyokong.
True.
You know, I kind of like to go back to the simple things like, you know, to what degree we need to see. I think all three of us here need corrective lenses. Today I'm wearing like contact lenses instead of glasses, but if we didn't wear them, we cannot see. But when I have my lenses or glasses on, I'm fine. Right? But if I really, really couldn't see, then I think I would definitely be impaired. I think there would be some kind of a disability, and there would be things that I memang tak boleh buat and probably will not be allowed to do pun. Right? So it's, there's some, big changes. But if you think about it, like how come like so recent, right? And so many, and I actually expect more changes to come actually. Shall we take a little bit of a break?
Yep.
Yeah, take a short break and then we'll be back. See you. Okay, welcome back to episod yang ke-99 di mana kita sedang membincangkan apakah perubahan yang telah berlaku dalam dunia kita lah. Bila kita menyebut tentang you know, autism, we are roughly looking at, you know, 10 years back. Not exactly plus minus, tapi we wanted to give like a time frame lah of like a decade, you know, to see that actually banyak juga perubahan telah berlaku when we just look at the context, and it's many different things, right? It's sometimes language is involved. It's what we understand and know about autism or autistic people pun is stuff that we keep learning more and more, you know. So for example, we know there is a connection between gut and brain. The research has showed us a lot of that stuff. But I don't know necessarily that it is something that is so connected that resolving it can result maybe like in a cure or fixing everything, for example. Didi, you can you jump in and speak about this a little bit? Because I think that is also one of those changes, kan? Dulu bila kita melihat kepada you know, benda-benda yang berkaitan dengan katalah makanan, diet and things like that, I think the objective was related to kind of like a cure sort of thing, right? Or like, this is the most important thing to do, You have to eat a certain way, you have to avoid certain things, you have to detox and things like that. And then there seemed to be this perception that kalau kita dapat buat benda-benda ni semua, elimination diet dan sebagainya, tiba-tiba lepas tu anak kita tak akan tak autistic lagi. And I think it's shifted now to look at health overall, right? It's like a bigger, broader look at health, lifestyle, things like that. Let's talk about that a little bit.
definitely. My kids were diagnosed 11 tahun yang lepas, 13 tahun yang lepas. So bila 14 tahun yang lepas, mula-mula diagnose tu memang terus doktor ni bagi link of a blog. That's the thing. Bila we talk about blog, it's all bercerita. Bercerita kan kalau kita panggil apa tu? Testimonial based, you know. It's not evidence based. It's cerita seorang yang telah cuba kaedah-kaedah ni. Dan
cerita dia lah, anecdotal
lah.
kan.
Anecdotal,
cerita
yes,
dia.
exactly.
Yeah.
That's
Tapi
the
mungkin
thing.
cerita dia sahaja.
Cerita dia lah. Orang lain buat, kalau jadi mesti ramai, banyak lagi cerita, banyak lagi blog yang kita boleh baca masa tu. Tapi ada 1, 2, 3 blog je at that time. So masa tu of course kita kan bila anak mula diagnose, kita desperate lah. Kita nak anak kita pulih. Of course we don't want anak kita forever autistic at that time kan, kita punya ni. In fact, it's not just kita di kalangan mak-mak punya sembang-sembang je. Even that doktor yang mendiagnose tu, doktor yang diagnose anak saya siap bagi prebiotik. Okay, I'm giving you prebiotik, give to your anak ya. Memanglah ada brain gut relation and everything, but bila kita makin faham apa semua sekarang, and then of course bila ada anecdotal, ada orang pernah usaha-usaha ni, ada sebahagian community medical yang dah buat, ada research, of course akan ada research, and then kita yang semakin lama lepas 10 tahun ni, of course kita pun dah macam-macam paper yang kita baca, kita perlu follow yang evidence based lah. Ramai orang dah buat further research on things yang ramai cuba at that time kan, all these cures kan yang dikatakan boleh mengubati daripada autism ni, dari segi injection lah, dari segi diet lah, but that's the
You guys
thing.
tried? We did tau. We did for Timur at one point in time. We did this thing called the GAPS diet. So I would have to say that the outcome was not bad. And actually a lot of the elements of it were quite healthy. So to me, healthy eating versus junk and processed food eating itu bagus untuk semua manusia lah sebenarnya. And but there were certain things that were very restrictive, super tight. We didn't follow it juga 100% lah. Like sebagai contoh, like we didn't take out like rice. Rice is like makanan ruji bagi orang Asia, orang Timur. So it's like not just Timur my son, but like, you know, people from this part of the world. Kita memang makan nasi, right? So adalah benda-benda lain kita ikut, and then they sangat tekankan things like, you know, making broth, like bone broth and really good stock and all that. So you cannot just make a simple soup. You have to really boil it down so that everything, you know, becomes like, you know, the essence or whatever. So I think some of that, if you think about it, bukan nak kata tak ada apa-apa yang positif tentang ni. So I think what we did when we looked at something like that, I think Timur's gut improved in the sense that I think penghadaman dia bila dia buang air, especially buang air besar, there was a difference. So that was helpful of course to him. But did it stop? Did it make him not autistic? You know, you did it for like more than a year. No, he's still autistic. I did it together with him and I felt that there were some benefits, but it was also very restrictive lah. And I think it's also true that when we think about things like, you have to balance juga when you think about these considerations. Adakah ia akan mengganggu mungkin interaksi sosial sebagai contoh. Sebab a certain kind of diet is so difficult and restrictive to the point that your kid, you know, cannot eat anything anywhere, right? I mean, there are ways to manage it, and bukan nak kata tak ada orang yang mempunyai alah atau alergi yang betul. Like really they have problems with certain foods. But I think again, autism is a spectrum, and you're talking about humans, individuals, everybody's different. I don't think we can blanket say that every single person who eats exactly like this is suddenly now going to be the healthiest, bestest, most brilliant person without any problems. You know, we have now realized it doesn't work like that, right? That's why when we talk about things and therapies coming up with this, that, at the end of it, it has to be a combination of things, and it has to work for whichever the individual is lah. Kan? That's why there's no one type fix everything, and of course it can be quite confusing. And it's true. it's sad. I mean, I've been sad for myself or for other people that had hoped that there is one type of therapy, there's one particular diet or certain ways that is going to fix most of it. But the truth is, it doesn't work like that, right?
Yeah.
It's got to be a combination of everything. And you have to figure out what is that combination untuk anak you sendiri. So yeah. So what's the shift now? We don't expect diets to cure everything. The move has been towards overall wellness and lifestyle support, right?
Yeah, you do it because it meant for you. Contoh kalau you dah buat blood test, memang you ada intolerance on certain food, then you elakkanlah. Then even that will definitely improve your overall health. Lepas tu, dari segi movement, dari segi all these supplements as well, kan? Supplement macam contoh anak saya sekarang taking magnesium supaya dia boleh tidur dengan lebih baik.
Tidur
It
sangat
somehow
penting.
help lah. Yeah. So kita punya target sekarang ialah I think sebenarnya yang kita perlu cakap 10 tahun lepas kita telah diberi satu hope. If you do this, we can cure autism. Tapi now we know that there's no cure for autism, but not saying that we should jangan tengok langsung all this diet ke supplement ke apa, tak. We can still do it, but you have to look at your anak tu individually lah. Even saya 2 orang anak pun, seorang ni perlu yang ni, seorang ni perlu yang ni. Because contohlah kalau memang anak you constipated, tak kisahlah autistic or not, memanglah hidup dia tak selesa.
Yes.
Exactly.
So kalau yang autistic akan lagilah meragam, lagilah kan. So kita nak blame, sebab dia autism, but kita tak solve sakit perut dia. So that's why we still have to look at it as a person, but kita taklah macam kalau dulu macam, kalau bagi prebiotik ni, nanti anak saya boleh bercakap tau, anak saya lancar, petah bercakap, boleh berhenti dah pergi speech therapy.
Yeah.
Like that. but now we know that kita pun perlu probiotik ni, not saying that anak-anak autistik je.
I take magnesium too.
Yeah,
Right?
I think that's
It
quite a
helps me
common
sleep. Yeah.
supplement.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk a bit about communication. I think this one is very close to your heart as well. Right? You were talking about it
Yes.
during break time. Tell us your story.
Betul. So, in the beginning, when Hans was first diagnosed, about 9 years ago, memang banyak emphasis untuk mengajar anak yang tidak boleh bercakap untuk bercakap. And I also felt this pressure a little bit lah.
A little bit?
A little bit. A lot actually. Sebab ada seorang yang saya
A lot.
as therapist of sorts lah. She's not really a therapist, but she's a practitioner in this area. And I had a chat with her and she told me, no, you have to make him talk. I remember this conversation very vividly because masa tu Hans berumur 4 tahun ke 5 tahun and I was starting to consider AAC actually.
Okay.
Dan
So that he can just communicate lah.
yes,
Right?
yes.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, they can talk. You must, if you give the AAC, nanti dia tidak akan bercakap. So and in a very convincing manner. So it added to my hesitancy to actually memberi satu alternatif untuk berkomunikasi. Tapi I think now we know that komunikasi ni bukan secara bertutur sahaja. Kan? A lot of communication is actually non-verbal cues, our gestures, our tone of voice. Okay, cuba bayangkan anak kita yang tidak boleh bercakap, walaupun dia tiada perkataan, tapi kita faham tak perasaan melalui bunyi-bunyi yang mereka buat?
Kita faham.
So that is communication.
Yep.
Kan? And I think now masyarakat lebih menerima komunikasi dari komunikasi yang dalam beberapa bentuk. So if someone who really can't speak, maybe hard of hearing or people who are deaf, sign language is an accepted form of communication.
No, but it is also a full language, right?
It's a full-on language.
It is a language, right? It's not somebody, again, it's not like less. It's not that they cannot communicate things like nuance or like details and subtleties and all that.
Facial expressions.
It's a full language. So that was the other thing. I also I'm glad we didn't get to that. There was a little bit, no lah, there was not a whole lot of that pressure because I think for us, we were thinking, no, if he wants to communicate in whatever way lah, text ke ni ke apa, let's just make that happen,
Make
because
that-
that's more important that we get that done, and then doesn't mean that we totally 100% stop when it comes to like the speech or whatever, but I feel like kalau kita nak sebut macam we go back to what we were talking about at the beginning of the episode, kan, I would say communication before speech. If we wanted to use this, before, and which is the
Yeah.
priority and what is more important, kan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are many different forms of communication that's more accepted, and it's actually given now. I notice it's now offered to parents from the early onset. Sebab I think I would say perhaps 10 years ago ada tanggapan sekiranya diberi alternatif kepada bercakap, anak tu takkan bercakap. Tetapi we
But it
now
feels,
know
right?
we now know that the importance of communication is so high that it reduces frustration, di mana anak-anak yang diberi AAC alternative communication as an option, lama-lama akan mula untuk bercakap.
Yeah.
Eventually they will feel less pressure, and the ability to speak will
Can
develop,
come, right?
develop, right? But there are also some who will maybe continue to have struggles with communicating, whether it's selective mutism or it's things like apraxia of speech, like Hans has. Tetapi it doesn't mean they have nothing to say. So we've gone from someone who cannot speak, has nothing to say, to acknowledging that maybe they can't speak, but hey, they can read, they can spell.
Yep.
Right? They can identify pictures, they can use gestures. There's also a different version of sign language called Makaton.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That is, I think, a bit easier to master compared to full on sign language, which is like you said, as language on its own. So I think saya lihat penerimaan. We can do better. There are still parents. I understand parents out there. I know we want to hear our children's voice. We want to hear them say, "Mama, Papa, I love you," and all that. Tapi I see more and more practitioners now encouraging parents to consider it. So if I would say 10 years ago or 9 years ago, I wasn't really offered the option as option 1. I would have appreciated if someone said, "Hey, here are a few options that you have now for your child to
with
connect
your kid
and communicate and give him the opportunity to tell you." Because bila mereka boleh berkomunikasi, it reduces the frustration. And in some cases, katakanlah mereka yang memang have certain issues with stimming. When they are able to communicate and they are more settled, stimming pun akan kurang.
Yeah, anything related to behavior,
Yeah.
that is when we see behavior as a form of communication and coping,
Yes.
kalau there's less stress and anxiety, sudah tentu behavior tu juga akan kurang. Sebab ia tidak diperlukan.
Exactly.
Kalau behavior tu is like komunikasi, tapi dia ada cara lain untuk berkomunikasi dengan kita, dan kita pun cepat nak memahami dia.
Betul.
Dia tak perlulah buat benda tu yang kita pun tak berapa senang dengan benda tu lah, sebagai contoh, right?
Yes.
So all those things, can definitely improve. But yalah, the situation is still, I think, tahap penerimaan AAC yang different levels, because these kind of approaches doesn't mean that it is necessarily a tablet atau like a some kind of smart device. It can just be in the form of like picture cards.
Yes.
There's many ways that these can be used. Tapi if I'm not mistaken, masih ada kekangan atau kurang penerimaan lah di sekolah-sekolah tertentu and things like that, right?
Yep.
Is that true? You guys have heard that also, kan?
Yes.
Which I think is a bit unfortunate lah. Kalau kita memang pernah dengar ada di antara sekolah-sekolah tertentu, ada sekolah swasta, tapi ada juga sekolah PPKI di mana ini bukan sahaja tidak dibagi sebagai satu pilihan atau tidak digalakkan, dia tidak dibenarkan.
Yes.
The tidak dibenarkan breaks my heart a little bit lah. If it is something that a child needs, kan. If you think about it now, it's like, you're taking that away. You're taking their voice away. It's a different kind. It's not a voice dari segi bunyi yang keluar daripada mulut, but it is, suara dari segi pandangan, perasaan, apa yang dia nak nyatakan pada kita. So it's, I hope that changes lah. So it's some of the things where yes, perubahan telah berlaku, but we still need the change to happen more, right? To
Yes.
accept more forms of communication.
Yeah.
Okay, I think one last thing maybe we can kind of talk about is like the changes that have happened berkaitan dengan caregiving and parents lah also in general. Right? I think some changes have happened there. Like when we think about the role of the parent,
Yeah.
where at one point in time it was parents' fault or everything was, because of what the parent did
Or didn't do.
right? Did or didn't do. And this is all the way from the fact that they were autistic, they became autistic, kononnya it's because of the mom, all the way to like, in therapy or how we look after them and all the things that we do. Like, it's like as if there's no other factors involved, right? It's all 100% about the caregiver. But at the same time, I don't know that the caregiver was also, looked at in a way of, they weren't looked at like if they were the be all and end all, you would think that they would also get more support, right? But I don't think they did. And of course, until today, pun there is a lack of support. But there is an understanding now, better than before at least, that caregivers, particularly parents or anybody who in that immediate close caregiving role, also needs care, right? Also needs to be in a good place, also needs a certain amount of education and skills to do their job, right? Or to take on that responsibility, and be able to help out or really truly care for for the autistic or neurodivergent person that's with them, kan?
Yes.
You guys agree? I think that's definitely one of the shifts also.
For sure. And also the whole alah kesian anak dia autistic, kesian the parent. Now I think it's the narrative there has changed a bit to wow, this person is coping with so much amazing. This person is amazing. And going back to the whole super mom thing, which I know I have a personal issue with. I don't like the term super mom. But I also appreciate being called a super mom rather than alahai kesian anak you autistic, So
Kalau antara dua tu lah,
I would
antara dua
choose,
tu
yes,
baik pilih yang super.
I would choose the super mom over the poor thing.
I also don't want the poor thing. You want that and that all those narratives that are related to like kesedihan and grief. Right, this is like a sad, tragic thing or whatever. That's kind of also changed, right?
Shifted a little bit,
in terms of how we look at things, because we want to celebrate that human beings can be different. That's where the neurodiversity piece comes from, kan?
Yes.
Didi, what do you think? What do you feel have been the good changes that have happened berkaitan dengan caregiving dengan parents ni that we have seen lah in our own journey?
The support lah, kan? Nampak dulu kalau parents nak cari ni kena pandai-pandai cari kawan je, but now so many supports available. You nak cari online ke, you nak cari persatuan negeri ke, memang banyak. Kalau dulu macam terkapai-kapai, nak join yang mana, ataupun kalau macam you join Facebook je, it's a bit macam susah lah, you tak ada one to one, you tak ada ni. So now better. And tapi dalam banyak-banyak tadi kan, daripada mula tadi, the first part tadi, I terfikir satu tau kan, we talk about blaming parents and then macam manipulate lah apalah and salahkan parents. This the Coke effect yang kita pernah discuss few episodes ago, Coke bottle Coke effect kan, where the kids meletup lepas dah seharian dekat sekolah, lepas tu pula terjadi dengan parents sebab parent tu safe space. So macam kalau orang yang macam tengok dekat sekolah okey je, kenapa dengan mak dia tak okey ni? Mak dia lah ni yang gagal. But now we understand that there's safe space, there's allostatic load. So all this
and it's the end of the day. It's the end of the day. They tahan already. By the time they get home, it's like the last bit. So it's actually, if you think about it, sepatutnya kita tahu, no, the fault was what happened in school. What do you mean, me? I'm just the last part of it. You went and did something actually to my kid. But at that time, I think we would feel guilty, right? We would feel guilty. We really did think like we are the ones that did something wrong. Ataupun macam, dengan semua orang lain boleh je, kenapa dia tak boleh dengan kita? Things like that. But we don't look at the big picture of everything where every little bit has played a part. Maybe sometimes we added to their load, like how they add to our load. But it doesn't mean that everything is because of us lah.
Yeah.
Kan?
Yes.
And even the good parts. We all know that's why kita orang sangat bersyukur,
Mm.
sangat terima kasih kepada terapis kita, cikgu-cikgu, all the different support systems, everything around our kid, right?
Mm.
Because again, we also cannot do it alone. So not like everything good is also just because of our specific roles, right? I think
Yep.
it's there's many components are there, and of course, I think again, people of faith, we know that the good also can come from something that's bigger than us.
Mhm.
It's not just about any one thing, any one person. That's changed, and I'm glad that's changed. Okay, cool. I think that was, I hope, a good discussion for reflection for some people, especially the ones who masih memegang kepada tanggapan yang kita sebut dah berubah ataupun tak sepatutnya sekarang ni, kan? Kita harap ni akan mencerahkan sedikit lah, dan memberi lebih kesedaran dan kefahaman tentang apa yang kita lihat dalam komuniti kita dan apakah pemahaman kita terhadap autism dan individu-individu autistic. I think there's a few more. So if there's anything that we missed, put it in the comment, okay? Something that you would like to talk about or you felt was very significant in terms of like changing. I think there were a few other things we have also seen that we can possibly talk about. Some people like to talk about, the role of girls. Some people talk about other things that we talk about now that we realize, like masking sebagai contoh. Mungkin dulu-dulu tak pernah dengar istilah masking ni, and what that means and why it's significant. And that is also actually related to things like, this so-called high functioning, low functioning or whatever, we are getting a bigger picture lah, which I'm glad, and I think it will continue.
Yep.
Right?
Cool.
Any last words, ladies, from your end?
I think in terms of the
99.
99.
Sorry.
Yeah, please say your bit about 99 and 100 or anything about before we say goodbye. Sorry, Desiree, go on.
It's okay. No, I
It's
wanted
okay.
to add one more on in terms of the parent bit that we see a lot more now. I think is concern and well-being of our mental health as parents. Dulu-dulu kita tengok training pun macam mana nak handle anak yang autistic, macam mana nak ni. Now we have training to tell us how to take care of our mental health and
Actually,
our
just
well-being.
mental health in general.
Yes.
Mental health in general for
Yeah.
everybody, the whole world is
Yes,
being
has
looked at.
shifted,
Dulu
yeah.
orang tak pandang sangat pun mental health. Whether it is orang autistic ke ataupun jaga kepada autistic, whatever. Mental health ni is not considered to be a thing lah. Right? That's a shift for sure.
that
Thank
is a
you for
shift.
bringing that up. Mental health. Jadi nak cakap apa pasal 99 ni tadi? Cakaplah sebelum kita tutup tirai ke 99 ni. What are you feeling?
99 in KK, 100 I'll be in KL lah with you guys.
Yes, of
Yes.
course. 5 kena ada ya, insyaAllah. Okay, yes. 100 you will be in KL dan kita tidak akan berada di studio seperti biasa. Yeah, so that's why we want you to join us. Studio ni pun, it's not big enough for us to invite people. The next space untuk episod ke-100 ni pun tak nak kata besar. Tidaklah. So that's why we ask you to indicate your interest, register, come and join us for those of you who can and who want to. But there is some space lah, obviously,
Yes,
to have
of
an
course.
audience, and we would love to see you all, especially for the people also yang bukan sahaja ingin meraihkan episod ke-100 bersama-sama dengan kita family, tetapi if you are particularly interested in that parent support group. We found parents, other parents that really helped us so much. We found each other.
Yes.
And that helps
Agreed.
so much. So I think we want to facilitate that happening for those of you who don't have your people yet lah.
Yeah.
Kan? So we're going to make it happen, and not just we are here for you. We've been saying we are here for you. Please tune in and listen to us and all that. But we want to do a little bit more, inshallah. Okay? So until then, please, as usual, share your thoughts with us, comment. Of course, we do hope that you will like if you found any of what we have said to be of benefit. Please share. And of course, please subscribe. YouTube ke, of course ada social media platform yang lain seperti Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We're also on Spotify for those of you who just like to listen. We have all these different options, and then we hope you'll continue to listen and support our work. Thank you so much. So until episode 100, bye for now. Assalamualaikum.
Bye.
Bye.